Hello everyone, this is Shelby Richardson. I am going to be reading from the article for my research paper. It is called The Effects of Resistance Exercise Selection on Muscle Size and Strength in Trained Women. The authors are Mathis Barbalho and many other authors. Again, this is presented by Shelby Richardson at Jacksonville State University. So for an introduction for this research article, the purpose of it was to see if there is any different results between the following types of training: multiple joint, known as MJ, single joint, SJ, and a combination of both multiple joint and single joint. You'll see it listed as MJ plus SJ. The summary with this is that a group of women were a part of a study to measure which type of resistance training, RT, was best suited for trained women. The women were separated into groups of 3. Group 1 focused on multiple joint exercise routines, Group 2 focused on single joint exercise routines, and Group 3 focused on both multiple joint and single joint exercise routines. This was used to measure the outcome of the woman's muscular size and strength. All of this was done within a 24-week training period. So what exactly is a multiple joint workout? So I've provided an example of a multiple joint workout and a single joint workout just so you'll have a better understanding of what exactly it means by that. So with the multiple joint workouts, as you see over here, we have squats, deadlifts, lunges, pushes, and pulls. Underneath those are pictures of different types of workouts. So when it comes to using let's say a front squat, you're not only using just your glutes, you're also using your quadriceps, your hamstrings, your lower back, and your abdominals, and many other parts. So that's what it's talking about with multiple joints. You go to deadlifts, and deadlifts you would think is only just working your hamstrings. No, it's actually working your hamstrings, glutes, quadriceps, lower back, and sometimes even arms. With lunges, you can go reverse, forward, side to side, however you choose to do the lunges. But when you're using these doing these lunges, you're not only using your glutes, your hamstrings, your quadriceps, you're also using your gastrocnemius and many other forms in the body. You have pushes, you go bench press, push-ups, dumbbell bench press. When it comes to push-ups, a lot of people think that push-ups are only working for your arm, and that's incorrect. So you're using your arms, you're using your abdomen, you're using your lower back, you're using your glutes. You're doing everything you can to essentially keep your body step in a plank position. And then you have pulls. If you go over here to lat pull down in the very far right corner, it almost looks like it's specifically working on your latissimus dorsi. It's working on your pectoralis, your biceps, your triceps, and lower back as well. Okay. Then we move our way over to the single joint workouts, and single joint workouts are essentially where you're focusing on one specific area or muscle to be training. You go over to the picture and you can see the decline skull crusher. It looks like it's only working for his triceps. So that's that main focus area that they're using there. Tricep push down machine, pretty self-explanatory. You're focusing on your triceps only. You're isolating that one specific muscle. Dumbbell kickbacks, again, it's another tricep area. Close grip bench press, you're working on the tricep area. It looks like it's a little bit of pectoralis, but it's just so far to the side, almost underneath your armpit with that area that it's working. You go to tricep rope push downs. Again, it's another area where it's focusing solely on the triceps. And then you have tricep dips. It's a little bit on the actual tricep itself, but it's actually more working your pectoralis more than anything. So again, the difference between the two, multiple joint was working with more than one specific area of muscles in the body, and single joint workouts are focusing on one specific isolated area. Okay. So we have the review of literature. I chose 4 of the authors that I found their words that were used in the article stuck out a lot, as well as it kind of went with how the article was representing itself. The first one is Barbalho M., Coswig, Steele, and other authors. They showed the evidence for an upper threshold for resistance training volume in trained women. So their article was pretty much, it was a way to help describe a strategy to equal out the duration and muscle groups set for an optimal range for women who were in training. You then move to the second one, which is Gentle P. His comment on it was talking about determining strength and a case for multiple methods of measurement. So this author explains that using multiple joint and single joint, and then just a sole multiple joint on specific multiple joint exercises are better explained and shown using multiple joint exercises. So essentially what that author is saying is that you have to do multiple joint and single joint or just multiple joints to help with showing how muscle thickness will increase and repetition will increase as well. All right, we move on to two more authors. You have Helms, Fitschen, Aragon, recommendations for natural bodybuilding contest preparation, resistance, and cardiovascular training. So the author explains that participants should use both multiple joint and single joint exercises in order to achieve a specific volume size for a given muscle group. Then you have Paoli, Gentle, Morrow, resistance training with single versus multiple joint exercises at equal total load volume, effects on body composition, cardiorespiratory fitness, and muscle strength. This article explains how it is proven that using multiple joint exercises are more effective by using heavier weights and gaining an increase in overall muscle strength. So the problem that they were seeing was that there was an argument about whether it was best for competitively trained women to focus on multiple joint exercises, single joint exercises, or using both multiple joint and single joint exercises. There wasn't enough evidence to show which was best for trained women, and so this is really the first time it's being tested of having different groups train specific areas. So if you look at the picture on the far left, the before picture, you can see that this woman, she's still trained, she's still muscular, but when you go to her after picture, you can see a large increase in her muscle thickness, and they're trying to figure out what was the best way that she went from before to after to help her get to where she wanted to be when it came to specific body parts that were focused. I mean, you could just see, looking at her picture, different parts of her body, especially her arms, her chest, and her legs. They're all very defined now in her after picture. And so it's wondering, how did she go from here to there? Was it solely working on just single joint? Was it solely working on multiple joint? Or was it using both single and multiple joints workouts to help her get to that part? Okay, so the hypothesis from the authors was that muscle thickness, MT, would increase as the 30 participants continued working out and increasing 1 repetition maximum, RM, per workout. It was thought that each group would show significant increase in muscle thickness by the end of the 6-month period of the experiment. They also believed that performing single joint exercises would be beneficial for those specific areas of interest. So it makes you kind of wonder, why did they just say the specific area or single joint exercises for specific areas? And that's what I'm going to kind of get into with y'all on their study. Were they right or were they wrong? Okay, so we move into the methodology, which is the materials for this whole experiment to work. There was a 24-week workout time frame, and then you had 30 female volunteers. Now, these volunteers were just random community. You had college age to young 20s to mid 20s to 30s and so on, so on. So it wasn't a specific age range as long as they were at least 18 years of age. So nobody under the age of 18 was allowed to participate. They also had to be free from any clinical problems, so making sure they didn't have any health issues that needed to be concerned. These women already or previously need to have been trained, so somebody who at least has been working out consistently or every so often, not somebody who has not worked out. They must be able to attend 2 sessions per week, and volunteers are responsible for their own diet plan. So the problem with this, though, is that we don't know exactly where these women were when it came to going into the competitive edge of everything. So if you look over on the left side of the screen, I do have different forms of bodybuilding that is considered now. And it's just one of those, we don't know where the women in the bikini section, where they figure, fitness, the actual bodybuilding, or physique. And if you look at each of them, they all do have a very small difference between each other, but it's just enough to wonder, are we working with people who are just solely bodybuilding, or are we working with girls who are figure building, trying to get their way to fitness? And so that's where it's kind of uncertain where everybody is starting, because not everybody is starting equally with each other. We move on to the methodology groups. Groups were assigned at random. All groups performed the same number of sets, trained at the same repetition range, and used the same set input. Multiple joint groups were tested with 1 repetition maximum for bench press, pull down, and squat exercises. Single joint groups were tested in 1 repetition maximum for elbow extension, elbow flexion, knee extension, hip thrust, and knee flexion exercises. Both multiple joint and single joint groups were tested 1 repetition maximum for all of the exercises. So your multiple and single joint groups had to do a combination of both the multiple joint and single joint groups. Methodology, steps to carry out the experiment. So all tests were performed between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. That was when the authors wanted the women to come in and be part of this experiment. Participants were asked to attend 2 sessions a week. Participants are to hydrate normally 24 hours before the test. Measurements were taken 3 to 5 days after the last training session. Participants were asked not to participate in other exercise sessions to prevent continuous swelling after. So if you've ever worked out before, then you know that once you do a workout of any type, whether it be cardio, single joint, multiple joint, or a combination of both, your muscles do swell from everything that goes into it after the workout session. So the reason they wanted to make sure they did the test and measurements 3 to 5 days after the last training session was to get the accurate size of the muscle thickness or repetition maximum to not interfere with the swelling that continued on from the body. Methodology, steps used to carry out the experiment. So we're going to go more just kind of into the training protocol, and I'm going to give it just a brief overview of how it is. So the training took place twice a week. 1 session was for lower body exercises, 1 session was for upper body exercises, and sessions were matched by total number of sets and similar time commitment. So they wanted to make sure that every group worked at the exact same time and had the exact same sets, just so they can get a fair playing field.